then we will turn to the first special item on the agenda, recognition of the 80th anniversary of the U.S. bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Councilmember Mosqueda, whenever you're ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to invite a coalition of individuals who are part of this proclamation to come up and join me at the podium here. Colleagues, I was deeply honored when Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility reached out to our office and asked us to sponsor this recognition. Because disarmament, the process of taking away or giving up weapons, especially nuclear weapons, is an issue I'm deeply passionate about and concerned about. As we witness our international relationships being deeply harmed by our federal administration's actions, the call to abolish nuclear weapons grows more urgent every day. I am proud to be just one voice amongst this large coalition across the country and, frankly, across the globe, to amplify and support the call for abolishment of nuclear weapons. Having visited Hiroshima in 2008 with my family, having been to the museum myself, having talked to people who have been on the receiving ends of nuclear weapons, we must do everything that we can in this moment to not only remember this history, but to do everything that we can to prevent it from ever happening again, now or in the future. I'm going to share the opportunity to make some comments before I read the proclamation, Mr. Chair, with members of the coalition who are here today with us, who are here to accept the recognition and say a few words. We have Jim Thomas from Pax Christi and Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility, Gretchen Hun, Board Chair of the Plowshares Fund, and Stan Shikuma from Hiroshima to Hope, Japanese American Citizens League, Tasu for Solidarity. I would like to welcome up the coalition to make some words before we read the proclamation into the record.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilwoman. It's just great to be here and introducing this proclamation, which we'll hear in just a minute. And thank you to the Council for making this solemn occasion. Today we remember the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, tens of thousands who were killed instantly, and many more who suffered and died from the bomb. We honor the Habakushu, the survivors who have dedicated their lives to telling their stories so the world never forgets. This is not just history, it's a warning. The risk of nuclear use today is higher than it's been in decades, with nuclear-armed states modernizing arsenals and new technologies increasing the speed and unpredictability of the escalation. Local voices like yours have an essential role. We cannot wait for Washington or the UN to act. Change begins in our communities. At Plowshares, our mission is to reduce the threat of nuclear weapons. Our priorities include preventing a new nuclear arms race by pushing for renewed diplomacy and arms control agreements, challenging outdated security thinking that relies on weapons capable of ending civilization, centering diverse voices, especially women and leaders from frontline communities in nuclear policy debates to bring fresh ideas and moral clarity, and connecting nuclear disarmament to broader security issues from climate change to human rights, because our safety is indivisible. It is our and my honor to be here today representing Plowshares and sharing this moment with you. Proclamations like this matter. They keep memory alive, and they send a signal that nuclear risks are not just a distant global problem, but a local one. We thank the Council for taking this stand, and we encourage continued leadership, whether through public education, support of nuclear risk reduction, or joining coalitions that call for a world free of nuclear weapons. Let's honor Hiroshima and Nagasaki, not just with remembrance, but with action.
My name is Jim Thomas, and I'm a member of the Seattle chapter of Pax Christi, the Catholic Peace Movement, as well as Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility. Councilmember Mosqueda, Thank you for introducing this important proclamation. While there is no mention of America's wasteful spending on nuclear weapons, this may be the most compelling point for why the Council should consider this issue. In a county with too many people lacking affordable housing, the new arms race constitutes a threat to many of our neighbors. I remember walking across the United States in 1982 as a member of the Bethlehem Peace Pilgrimage, a 6,700-mile walk for nuclear disarmament. The eldest pilgrim was Father George Zabelka, who had been the Catholic chaplain to the men who dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In walking through so many towns across the country, we saw the devastation that President Reagan's nuclear weapons expansion was causing, robbing so many hard-working families of their hope for a brighter future. After walking across Europe and the Middle East in 1983, I returned to Washington State and spent the next 2 decades investigating Hanford's production of plutonium for use in nuclear weapons. Thousands of Hanford downwinders who now live in King County continue to suffer from their exposure to radiation and toxic chemicals. Current estimates of Hanford cleanup exceed $500 billion. The citizens of King County cannot afford wasting more tax dollars on nuclear weapons, while so many of us lack the basic needs of a life befitting human dignity. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stan Shikuma. I'm a vice president with the Seattle chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League. I'm a board member From Hiroshima to Hope, and also on the leadership council of Tsuru for Solidarity. First, I want to thank Councilmember Mosqueda for introducing this resolution, and thank the council for passing it. Hopefully they will. I think after 80 years, the good news is that there has been no further use of atomic weapons. The bad news is that there are more atomic weapons than there used to be, and we are now in a modernization phase, which is a euphemism for a new arms race. So the dangers are increasing, not decreasing at this moment. This is an existential crisis. It's one of the few ways that humankind can actually destroy the world, climate change being the other. Does anyone care? Do people care? I would argue that yes, they do. In the Japanese American community, many of the people who immigrated here came from Hiroshima-ken and Nagasaki-ken. So there are many folks who had family members there at the bombings or have relatives who suffered from it, including my mother. My mom's family, she was born in Anacortes, lived in Bellingham, and then they moved to Shelton, Washington. She was sent back to Japan for education when she was 8 years old and came back 10 years later. She went to Hiroshima-ken, not the city, but the state, and kept in touch with one of her classmates who did stay there and survive the bomb. She told her that they were traveling on a train that was going from the east side of Hiroshima-ken to the west side through the city of Hiroshima a few days after the bomb dropped. This train stopped, and the conductor said, "You'll have to walk because there's a problem with the tracks." They started walking, went over a hill, and found out it wasn't a problem with the tracks. There were no tracks. They kept walking and found that there was no train station. And they realized that there was no city. It had been leveled, destroyed. Destruction was all they could see. She had a sack of potatoes, and there were people begging as best she could and then ran out. The human cost of nuclear war is unimaginable, but that doesn't mean it is not preventable. And From Hiroshima to Hope, we had over 1,000 people come out to help us commemorate the 80th anniversary just a week ago. I think that is a testament to the desire for people in our county and our city for peace and nuclear disarmament. We have a new project called the Sadako Renewal Project. You may remember that the statue of Sadako, a young girl who was in Hiroshima, survived the bombing, but 10 years later developed cancer and died. There was a statue created and placed near University Bridge, and it was stolen a year ago. So we have a project to replace that, and it's gotten tremendous support from the peace community, from the Japanese American and Japanese community, and from the faith communities. We hope that the council will also support that and recognize it. Last thought is that we cannot create a better future if we base it on our worst fears. It's time to turn from a climate of fear to one of hope and build our lives and our plans on what we dream can be better, not on what we fear could happen. Thank you.
Powerful words. I'm going to now read the proclamation into the record, and friends, I want you to see that every council member has signed this proclamation here today. Whereas 80 years ago, this August 6th and 9th, the United States detonated the first nuclear bombs over civilian populations in Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the close of World War II. And whereas hundreds of thousands of people died in the explosions and afterward from radioactive fallout, among them an estimated 50,000 Koreans who are seeking recognition as victims of this tragedy. And whereas the bomb survivors, the Habakasha, have committed to telling their stories and urging the world to never again use nuclear weapons. Nihon Hidangyo, a grassroots organization, received the Nobel Prize in 2024 for this effort. And whereas the 9 nuclear powers now possesses over 12,000 nuclear weapons, all of which are many times larger than the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs. 10,000 of these belong to the United States and Russia, of which 6,600 were produced in Southeast Washington, and 1,200 are stationed a mere 20 miles from King County. And whereas movements of everyday people, like the nuclear freeze and Target Seattle in the 1960s through the 1980s, created the political momentum for verifiable arms control treaties and the dismantling of 20,000 nuclear weapons between the United States and then the Soviet Union. And whereas the 9 nuclear powers are once again expanding their nuclear arsenal, with the United States pledging nearly $2 trillion in modernization efforts, and the last arms control treaty between the United States and Russia set to expire in February of 2026, causing the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists to set the annual doomsday clock to an unprecedented 89 seconds to midnight. And whereas we call for justice for all victims of atomic weapons from production to use, including Japanese and Korean victims, people of the Marshall Islands, the Spokane, Yakima, and Wanapum tribes of Eastern Washington, and all nuclear downwinders. And whereas we call upon our federal delegates to take action to prevent an escalating nuclear arms race. Now, therefore, we, the Metropolitan King County Council, recognize both August 6th and August 9th, 2025, as the 80th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings, and echo the words of the survivors that nuclear weapons must never again be used. Dated today. Thank you very much, colleagues. And let's take a picture. Let's all go here and take a picture, or we can move this over. Would you like to join us? Yes? Okay, thank you. You got it. Okay.
Thanks so much. Hey. That's all right.
Okay, let's step forward a little.
How you doing? Good. Thanks so much. Yeah.
So let's step forward right here is our That's right. He has good taste. The recent shirts.
Thank you.